We sort of stumbled upon this slide, as it were, as a good starting point for almost any discussion about computers. This is called threevirtues.com, and Larry Wall was the inventor of Perl, a very important programming language. And his three virtues of a great programmer were laziness, impatience, and hubris. And those definitely motivate a lot of what I do and why I like WordPress, because the virtue of laziness means I don't have to do the same thing again and again. So really all of them. And so I'm going to talk about why CSS helps you be lazier, more impatient, and have more hubris. So let's see, I have this little outline. That it's sort of my own outline, but since I don't have an iPad, I have to kind of refer back to it as I'm talking. What I'm going to talk to you about is about CSS. CSS is the formatting language of the internet. Let's call it that. And I'm really interested in things that can empower people to have more control. That's why I got into WordPress in the first place. And right now what you'll see out there, especially in the premium theme market, is lots of control panels that give you ability to change the color of your heading 1 style or your body background or something like that, which can be good. It can also be overwhelming. But what they're giving you is actually an interface to CSS. They're giving you a handy dandy friendly way of seeing what they're actually doing is writing out CSS, and that's cool. But the thing is, there's no way you could possibly intuit as a programmer all the millions of different possibilities that someone might want to do with their site. And so the more that you can know about CSS, the more you can actually just go in and do it and fix it and make it the way you want it to look. And I just love stuff like that. I will mention that you were talking about just wanting to have an exposure to things, and I do want to talk about how you could take this in at many different levels. Do not feel, because I like to dive in and show people a lot of stuff, if you have the idea that I have to know it all, you might feel like, my God, he's going too fast. But if you just let it kind of come in, and you can come in, take it in as you take it in. So even if you come away with an exposure that, oh, this is possible and this is possible, that's great. You might come away, hopefully, with tools and techniques you can use, etc. But it just depends on where you are. But just, let it sort of soak in, and don't worry about remembering it all or getting it all perfectly. So what is CSS? I'm going to give you a visceral demonstration of what CSS is. And a fun site to see that is CSS Zen Garden.com. This site has been around for a while, but it's still quite a relevant, interesting thing. So first I'm just going to show you, okay, here's a website. It's got words, pictures, and formatting. I have the web developer toolbar here in Firefox, and I'm going to go into the CSS area and disable all styles. Okay, so bottom line, this is what that same page looks like with no CSS applied. It kind of reminds you of the web in like 1995, 1994.
Or my website.
Or your website. So now it just gives you a sense of this is the HTML, and this is the HTML with a particular CSS style sheet applied to it. Now the fun thing about this is you can really stretch this farther in this site, because that was the purpose of the site. So lots of different designers made their own style sheets to put a different skin, if you will, on the same HTML. So
It's like a template?
it's like is CSS like a template? Yeah, I guess CSS.
Is like a template?
No, no,
No.
no, it's not special in that way.
What was the name of the Firefox? Is it a plugin?
Web developer plugin, yeah. I don't use a lot of it, but it's a really neat thing to see.
Some of it's really useful.
So it can be really useful, sure. So here's another style sheet applied to the same content.
Wow.
Wow. Oh, you should scroll this one. This one's, yeah.
That's a really nice one.
Yeah, like
That holds up really well. Let's see. Here's another same content, different style sheet. Same content, different style sheet. Same content, different style sheet. So I think that gives you an idea of the power of CSS. So now I'm going to show you, I'm just going to make a really simple file, and you can do this at home. It's very simple, actually. So I have made a file called example.html, and I'm going to make the world's simplest HTML file and put in, so that's an HTML tag, if you didn't know that. And then every HTML tag has a closing tag. So if it has stuff in it, and so the wrapping tag that wraps all HTML is called HTML. And then every HTML file has a head, and then a title, hello world. And every HTML file has a body tag. And the body tag is where all the stuff shows up that you see. And now I have an H1 tag. And that's my HTML file. I'm going to save it. And now I'm going to go into my folder here. And I'm just going to double click on it, and it should open up. And that's it. That was an HTML file. You can look in here and see it. There's my file. So this is what it looks like as code, if you will, and this is what it looks like as HTML. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a style sheet to it. I'm going to use a shorthand because I don't exactly remember the syntax always myself. There. Okay. So I think it's called styles1.css. Got to spell right. Okay. And just for fun, I'm going to do something else to make this an exciting display. So I'm going to go to pixabay.com, which is a really neat site. It's all public domain files, pictures. And what I did the other day was I searched on ocean. I think it was ocean. There was this really, oh, maybe it was sea. There was this amazing picture of jellyfish that was really neat to use. Yeah, look at that. And for this fun thing, I'm just going to click download. I'm going to say view, a pretty large version of the image, not the largest version. There now. What I've got here is I've got a URL that points to that image. And now what I've got here in my CSS file, so this is your first CSS file, okay? And what it says is, I want to apply these formatting rules to this tag, this body tag. Body tag, body tag. H1 tag, H1 tag. So I want to make the text color yellow.
that's the text color, right?
Yeah, the text color yellow. And the font size really big, 100 pixels. And I want the background to point to that image. And then I I guess because I'm a perfectionist, I played with the padding of this. And so that's my CSS file. So now, with this many lines of CSS, if I refresh this file, it looks like that. So that's what you can do. So styles, yeah, I guess I didn't mention this yet. Styles, CSS is a little bit like styles in Microsoft Word. Almost everybody has had to use Microsoft Word at one time or another, and a percentage of those have used styles because they didn't want to have to format all their headings to be blue and 24 point 1 by 1. They wanted to say, make all of the headings in this document blue at once in this whole 40-page document. Well, CSS does the same thing. And CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So in a simple way, you could say that the style sheet part is the same as the style sheet part in Word. It just makes things look a certain way. The cascading part is what gives it a little more power than Word has. So the cascading part means that you could have, I can talk more about it later, but you can have multiple rules that apply to the same thing, and it's going to pick out the most specific rule. It actually feels like I can mention this here just for fun, and it'll just be your very first exposure to that if it is. So let's say you have a rule. I'm extrapolating this here, but let's say you have a rule in your world that says all animals are blue. So we have some animals, animals, animals. All animals are blue. That's the way it is. But then let's say we add to our rule set, all animals are blue and all horses are red. So this is the way CSS works. So it says, okay, well, all animals are blue, but all horses are red, and horses are more specific than animals. So I'm going to make all the animals blue, but if I find a horse, I'm going to override that rule, and I'm going to make the horses red. So that gives you a first introduction to the inheritance quality of cascading style sheets. That's how they cascade. The rules cascade down. And that makes it really powerful. So now I'm going to show you guys, oh, by the way, if we have time, I can do some real life surgery on your real sites. So, and this is a really fun thing to do because I can do it in real time and see what the rules will look like in your file without being able to log in or anything like that. I can see, and I could send you an email and say, here, add these 3 rules, and it'll make it like this. So it's a lot of fun. You'll see how that process works. But I'm going to give an example of a site that I did and how I used this in a really practical way. But keep in mind, if you have a site that you'd like some help with, or you have a problem, or you'd like to make it more interesting or something like that, because in a few minutes we can work on that. So here's a site that I did for a client and called Graffiti Tech, and it's a nice slideshow, and the goal was to make the information clear and appealing and also be affordable to the client. And so we worked with the client and we worked with the writer, and I think we did a really nice job. It was just a satisfying project. Whoops. Finally came up and then I stopped it. So here's what we're going to do. This is the dashboard, obviously, for the website. And this is the WordPress Dashboard. Thank you, in case someone hasn't been there yet. This is the WordPress Dashboard, which is kind of like a control panel for WordPress, and you log in as the owner of the site or someone who's working on the site, and you can make changes, and it has all these little areas and sub areas where you can do things. And I have a plugin installed called Jetpack, and I think Jetpack is a really neat plugin to install because it's got tremendous support from WordPress. It's emulating features that exist in WordPress.com, and they're working hard on it and making a lot of neat things, and so it just seems like a very sensible thing to have. And then the other thing is that it has this custom CSS feature, and there are other ways you can do this, but I recommend this way. This is a really neat way. So if you go into Appearance, Edit CSS, then there are all these CSS rules here that I put in. And one of the things I love about this is that there are revisions in this plugin, so that, you know, this is part of what's cool about it. If you go home and play around with this, you can't break it. You really can't break it. First of all, with CSS, you're only affecting the formatting. Although, of course, if you lost, you could have a disaster where you hadn't backed up a lot of CSS and there was no revision and you erased it all, and that would totally suck. But this precludes that from happening. So that's a really neat thing about it. And it's pretty, and it gives you little syntax warnings and errors and things like that, and it's easy to use. So so basically, what we did was we took this basic chameleon theme from Elegant Themes, and it's a pretty good theme, and we took it as is. We configured the basic things that you could configure from the configuration panel, which is nice to do, you know, so you can go in and configure the things that are there to configure that they made for you as options. But then beyond that, we were able to do all this CSS, and it really changed the look of the site in a bunch of nice little ways. So, oh yeah, I just wanted to show you the testimonial boxes because I think they're pretty. But I'm going to show you how they looked before too. So, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to take out all the CSS. Let's see.
Simon, this styling is how the basic theme came out of the box.
This is not how it came out of the box. And you're going to see, this isn't one of those things where it's super dramatic, but it's nice little things that refined it and made it into a really nice theme, nice website. I'm going to save. Okay, let's see here. Refresh.
Geez, Mark, can we get some bandwidth over here?
Who knows where that's coming? I think it's might be my web host. So here's how it looked before. Now obviously, so we have a logo here, and then this is where the description was. Obviously, like if I didn't have the power to use CSS, I guess I could have just made the logo smaller. I could have adapted, you know, I could have made do with it being, with the description or the tagline for the site being this very pale, tiny little thing. I find a lot of times, for some reason, theme designers think that little tiny type is really great and sophisticated looking, and that like light gray on dark gray, or dark gray on light gray makes things seem sophisticated, and it really bothers me because I'm interested in the power of the web to communicate, not just to look cool. So, what a concept. So you can sort of see the before and after there of a few things that I did. So I made the, I made this, what does it even say? Graffiti vandalism detection tagline. Totally changed its font, totally changed its position, just down to the pixel, make it line up with the baseline of this logo so it looks really nice. And I was actually able to add these words, stopping graffiti at the source, in CSS. So this is actually using the content pseudo selector in CSS. So basically, part of the philosophy here is that I want to, if I'm working with a small client and we don't have to change any code, I like that a lot. So basically, when you get a theme, what you get is a whole bunch of files, a bunch of code files. And you get, and then when you go in here and I edit it, let's say I edit something in here and change a configuration here in the dashboard. These configurations are not affecting the code files. That may or may not make a lot of sense yet, but the bottom line is if you don't affect the code files, it's a lot cleaner if you're working with something simple like this, because let's say the theme maker made an update to the theme. All you'd have to do is say update, and then it would just update the files, and that didn't matter that it overwrote the old version of files that you had because you didn't change any of those files. You just had things in your database here that were configuration things. So this may or may not make sense, but it's a very beautiful thing to me. So let's see.
So could we see that CSS that you just talked about moving the?
Sure. Let's see.
More specifically, the difference between the two.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So this can kind of dive us into the main tool that I recommend using to start learning about this. And all of the browsers have this basic tool, this inspector tool, but Firefox's has become the nicest. It's very, very nice. It's very easy to see what's going on. So in Firefox in the Mac, I can click Command-Option-I to access this area.
How did you do that?
Command-Option-I.
That's in Mac.
You can also go on the Mac. You can also go, what is it? Tools, CS. No, Web Developer, Tools, Web Developer, Inspector. So one of the things I want to stress is that I don't know what's going on. When I go and try and fix something, I don't know what's going on before I look. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't know what's going on before you look. You just have to develop the ability to look and some strategies about how you look and sort of solve these problems. So I click on the little inspector thingy, and then it gives me a dotted line showing me. So right now it's over the p tag with a slogan ID. So that, I don't know if you can see that very well, but it says p hash slogan. And that's a notation that means this is a p or paragraph HTML tag that we're looking at, and it has an ID of slogan. So tags can have an ID attached to them, or they can have one or more classes attached to them, and that's just kind of like let's say that the tag is like a horse, and then a class of horse would be, or no, let's take the animal thing. So animal, let's say if you had a tag of animal, then you had a class of horse. So these are all animals, but this is an animal of class horse, and these are animals of class sheep. That's kind of the same concept. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on here, and then you'll notice down here, let me see here, down here we have this tree here. So I'm going to show you how these are all connected. So this is a box that shows you what that tag, what space that tag is taking up. And this is a tree that lets you go up and down. And here's a picture of the HTML as a structure of HTML. And then here's all the rules that are being applied to that same HTML. So they're all connected. So this is this, is this, oops, is that. So anyway, P slogan is what it is. So here on the right hand side, I have some CSS rules that I applied. And the first thing I can do is I can actually unclick these rules that are being applied just to see what happens.
And it just happens.
Yeah, and this is really neat. This is why I really love this way of working, because what you're able to see is this is like a scratch pad. Okay, none of these changes are permanent. If I press refresh and refresh the page, it's all going to be erased. But what's cool is I can say, oh well, this is what would happen if I applied this CSS rule. That's how the magic works. So like, this is the color, letter spacing, turn them back on, font size. Now it's being really crazy. And you can actually see how one little thing can totally change even where something's able to lay out or anything. So that's the CSS. So what I was going to do actually is just go through the process with something really simple here. How I made this text be a pleasing width. So I actually made the box that encloses this text be narrow enough so that the line broke at a nice place. Because how it was before was stupid. So I'm going to show how I did that. So first I'm going to go in and take out the CSS, but don't look. That was there. Okay. So here I am. I want to fix this. I just want to go into my inspector and see what's going on and where I would need to apply a rule to make this change. So I click here, and I click on the H3 tag, and that's kind of an interesting place to look. So I look over here on the right, and it says category name H3. So we have a color applied, font size, blah blah blah. Okay, but what I want to do actually is I want to see if I can apply a width to it.
I have a question.
Okay, what's your question?
So the items that are crossed out, are they crossed out because they're saying, this is the rule, but I was overridden by a more specific?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. So it's showing that that's the cascading nature. It's saying that this font rule, this font family rule, was overridden by a more specific or more powerful rule. Yeah. Let's see. Actually, I think it might have been. It actually was. It was actually overridden by a more annoying rule. Like there's the cascading nature of cascading style sheets is this elegant, orderly thing of saying, okay, well, I defer to you. You're more specific. Okay, and when you put important at the end, it's kind of like an obnoxious person standing up in the middle of a talk and saying, I'm important, and getting all the attention. So that's what that does. But there's a place for it. Sometimes it's very helpful, especially at the end when you're just trying to get a client's website to work, and you're trying to save them money and time. So it's a balance, like don't do it that much, but just in like in life, don't do it that much, but there are times when it's useful. That's a good question. So here I'm saying width, colon, and I'm going to say 300 pixels. I say, oh, look, that works great. Now, it's not centered and it's too narrow, but I know that it's working, and I know that it can work. So now I can let's try 400 pixels. Let's try 500 pixels. Let's try 600 pixels. Okay. And I want to make it wrap so that I want the A, I think, to wrap to the next line. So I'm going to try like 550, 540. There we go, 540. So I know that I want it to be 540. Now, how do you make it center? There's a trick to that. What I can do is I can actually say margin left auto and margin right auto. I guess you could just say it's one of those tricks. But basically what it does is, the auto, if you have a width on something, you have to have a width because it has to have a width to do this trick. So,
I have a question. So how device dependent is that width you just made? Like, is this going to look good on other devices?
that would be, well, the question is how device dependent is the width. Yeah, no, it won't look good on, let's say, so I said 540 pixels, so if your device is narrower than 540 pixels, it won't look good. It would force it to not be visible, all visible. So if you wanted to do a responsive layout, what you would do is you would actually give a responsive bit of code at the bottom that said, if the screen is narrower than such and such breakpoint, that's less than 540 pixels, then do this other thing with it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question.
And when the line is through, what does that mean again? When the line's crossed out?
It means that there's a more specific rule that's superseding, that's overriding this rule.
And if you were to scroll down, you might find it, right?
And then you would find it
I
nested
think we
in.
found it because it was the big obnoxious.
Yeah, it's actually a
Important.
more
Bang
obnoxious
important.
rule. It's a more obnoxious rule. Yeah, actually in
It's
this
bang
case,
important.
yeah,
Well, in all
yeah.
cases, it would be the last font
Yeah.
in that list.
Here it is actually, yeah, here it is. Did that do it? I don't know.
It's your bang important at the bottom.
Yeah, it's definitely that. So now I know that I have these three rules that I want to change. Now, if you wanted to do these kinds of things, what would you do? You would start learning a little bit about CSS. You start learning, okay, well, color. Okay, color, font color is the word color. So, okay, let's try that. Let's try color, red. You can actually type things like red and pink and green. Those aren't usually very nice colors, but there's a better way to get colors. But, you'd start to learn those things. And I made a little sort of recipe kit at the end of this too. But basically, that's what you would do. So now, I'm a big believer in copying and pasting code. And one of the things that non-programmers don't always necessarily realize is that a lot of your frustrations might be related to mistyping one tiny little teeny thing. And part of the art of being a programmer, right, Andrew, is reducing the amount of unnecessary frustrations that make you crazy. Right? Right? So here what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to right-click on this whole rule set here, and it says copy rule. And I'm going to go down and paste the entire thing. And it pasted everything. And I love that because it pasted everything I want, exactly like it's supposed to be. So I know it's going to work the same in here as it worked in my test page. And now I'm just going to delete the things that I didn't actually need to add. So I didn't change this. I didn't change this. I didn't change these. These are the three that I added. And so that's what I need to save. Oh, yeah, question.
If you're working with an existing style sheet, shouldn't you be careful to look for the existing rule you just changed, rather than just pasting it?
Okay, if I'm working with an existing style sheet, should I look for the existing rule that I just changed? Well, the thing is that I don't think I didn't change anything. I didn't change any instructions here.
No, I'm not talking about this case.
Oh,
If you're
okay.
working with a site that has an existing style sheet,
Yeah.
and you pull that rule from your inspector, then it's a possibility that rule may already exist in your style sheet, right?
Well, I'm not sure. So the question is whether the rule might exist in the style sheet already, but I don't think it would because I'm applying a width to this, and it didn't already have a width applied to it. Now, you could be right because it could be that maybe down farther. See, there are several different rules here that are actually all applying to this box, okay? And that's part of that cascading thing, right, about the animals and the sheep and the cows and things, is, just really, really quickly. So there's something called H3, And that's saying, well, all the H3s should be like such and such. And then there's another rule that's saying, that's a more specific rule that's saying all the H3s that are underneath a thing with an ID of category name should be such and such. And that rule is more powerful, more specific, yeah. So anyway, it could be an elegance thing, but not necessarily. Okay, so let me see. Did I save it? Let me just make sure I saved it. And then now if I refresh this, it will be done. Yeah, question.
The ones that are marked out because it's overrode someplace else is something more important. Why do you leave them in?
Why do I leave? If something. Oh, that's a good question. So the question is, if you have to like be obnoxious by using a rule like important, why wouldn't you just take out the other rule that you didn't want? Well, in this case, that is a good question. It would be more elegant in the big picture to just take out the rule you didn't want and then not have to be obnoxious. Well, you don't have to be obnoxious, but it's convenient to be obnoxious.
Well, there were some that wasn't so obnoxious.
Unless, in general, that rule makes sense to other parts of the site.
But then wouldn't it be repeated in those other parts of the site?
No, because what you would say is, just imagine something where it's crossed out. And the reason it was crossed out was because you had
There's an override.
the reason, and let's just say it was make things pink. Well, in there he wanted it blue, right? And that's why it was crossed out. In general, whenever he has or whatever that is, like H3, he wants them to be pink.
It's like the sheep and the horse example. So there's this general rule that says all animals are blue, so maybe all H1s are blue. But there's this specific page that you've got this little bit of text that you want to highlight.
Change, right.
So that specific one you want to make red.
Okay.
Yeah, but there's another answer through that too, because you might very well want to take out the rule that you didn't like, and part of the thing is that what's happening here is the vendor that made this theme had set up all these style sheet rules that said it should be like this. Okay, I don't want to mess with those because I don't want to mess with the code files. I want to elegantly override them in the database in the control panel, but not actually change the code files. In that case, I'd rather just elegantly add a little bit. Exactly. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So stop me if you'll get to this later. But
Mhm.
an obvious question is, what is the order of precedence? How do you specify that, a horse is more specific than animal?
Let's see. That's a great question. I just found this very nice article, which I'll include in the references, which I'll leave on my blog. Web Design from Scratch. He has a lot of really nice examples. So this is something about inheritance, and it's very, very clear. Styles can be inherited from parent. Later styles overrule earlier styles. Yeah, when you get more fancy about it, there's real clear rules. Styles can come from different sources. That's just a note.
So the key is later. It's not like it's some embedded.
It's not necessarily later.
Important.
Yeah, I think that there was another article that I found recently too, which was good from CSS Tricks. But later, if the rules are of equal weight, then the later one will take precedence. But if you had a more specific one that was earlier, it will take precedence. So in other words, if there are two rules of equal weight is the only time that later is better. Otherwise, more specific is better. How is the more specific indicated? Oh, that's a really good question. So like, if I had, I had two rules here that I was talking about just now, where I have there's a rule that says all H3 tags should have the font of Open Sans. That's a rule. And then there's another rule that says all H3 tags that are underneath, somewhere underneath something with an ID of category name, which is it's awkward to say, but should have a font of
So being more specific,
XYZ.
a more specific location, is there any other way of indicating something being more specific
Ways of indicating something being more specific.
other than location?
Named objects.
So let's see. So one of the biggest ways that people use is by putting a class on something or an ID. That's one of the most useful ways. So like, let's say I have all these animal elements, and they're all just an element of animal. And I say, but the content of this one's really a horse, and I think all the horses should be red. So all I have to do is, let's say there's all animal tags, I just add a class of horse. And then I just make a more specific rule that says animal.horse, which is how you would make the notation for class. Animal with a class of horse equals red.
And you don't have to do that for the non-exceptional ones, you only do that for
Right.
the exceptional.
You don't have to do that for the non-exceptional ones. Yeah. So that's part of that cascading idea, as you were saying. This is how it works, sort of like the way human mind works. You say all animals are blue, and all horses are red. Except I guess in English you'd say, but all horses are red, or with the exception of horses. Yeah. And then of course the important thing overrides it all in an obnoxious, inelegant way, but that's sometimes helpful. So, and I mean, another answer to that, how do you know which is more specific is, if you get really geeky about it, there's some really neat articles about it, but in general, you don't have to worry about it because in general, common sense will work in your favor if you say like, oh, I want to add a class to these things and I want them to all be purple. That usually works, because it's more specific.
So this was all inside the CSS editor within WordPress.
Yeah, this was all inside the Jetpack.
It was Jetpack?
Yeah. It's not actually very easy to tell, but because Jetpack is in multiple locations. But once you install Jetpack, then you go into Appearance, Edit CSS. This item doesn't exist until you install Jetpack. Yeah, that's a good question.
The most obvious difference is that the regular editor that comes with WordPress doesn't have the colors or the markup. It's just text.
Right. Oh, and the other thing is that if you use the regular editor here that comes with WordPress, you're actually editing the physical file in the code files, which many people would consider not a pretty thing to do. Whereas with this CSS editor, you're actually just editing a settings thing in the database that you can save and revise and doesn't affect the code files. So let me just see here. I have a few other things to show about this that are kind of fun, and then we can I can answer questions or help you fix your sites, things like that. I was just thinking I might do a couple fun things because this is nice, but it's also, it's pretty nice, but it's also not like exciting necessarily. And I can show you some of the cool things that you can do with it, and how quickly you can do them. Let's see. So one of the things I was going to show you is, Google Fonts. Google Fonts. That is really neat. This is such a neat trick, and this is so powerful. So if you Google Fonts, and then you go in here and you look up, and so basically in the last few years, the world of what you can do with fonts on the web has blown up and transformed, and it makes a really big difference because for years and years you could only use about like 5 fonts. Literally, you could only use about 5 fonts, and it was kind of horrible. But people got used to it. And fonts are an incredibly powerful way to express the character of your website, and also even just a nice way to show subtly, unconsciously something different. For example, the font Open Sans, which is actually made by Google, is a wonderful basic font for reading. It's just a beautiful font for the screen. And also, if you use Open Sans, subconsciously, when someone's reading the site, they'll feel, oh, this is a little different. This isn't like every billion like websites that were in Arial or Helvetica. It's just a little different in a pleasing way, but it's also very readable. You want things to be readable too, but it's really great. So this is the Google Fonts interface here, and it's just one of the most powerful things you could do for your site, to add character to your site. So now it's sorting. There's a zillion, 626, almost a zillion different font families here. And so you can play with this in a lot of different ways. It's sorting here by trending. You can sort it I don't know why you'd sort it alphabetically, because you can also search for the font that you want. And let's just say, I really want a font that starts with P for some reason. But number of style, trending, popularity, and trending are kind of interesting. I can look at a word in the font. I can look at a sentence in the font. I can change the sentence. Like, let's say, especially if I'm looking at for like a headline, I can say like, how does the specific headline look? In which case, I would want to go like really big and see, what does this look like as a headline? Like searching for headline fonts is a really different thing than searching for body fonts. They're really different issues. In a headline font, it matters a lot what the specific letters look like in your case for that if it's like a logo, basically. And the overall readability in smaller sizes is much more important if you're looking for a body font.
So do you download these and host them on your website?
No, you don't have to download these and host these on your website at all. You can actually point directly to Google. I'll show it. Yeah, I'll show you. So let's say I just want to change the character of this site and just have it have a different feel. Let's say it's a different client, different feel. I want it to feel softer and more fun. Let's say I want to feel more softer and more fun. Okay, so let's go back to the Grumpy Wizards. Let's say I'm looking for, it's hard to really see that at all, so let's make it at least, 36 so that you can see it. Yeah. I'm going to even go bigger. Okay, so now it's easy to see that. So let's say I'm looking for something that's more fun. Well, that's fun, but it's, this one's almost too fun. Let's see. This one's kind of neat. Noto Serif. But if I'm looking for one that's a little... And there are a lot of really good fonts here, by the way. Both for title fonts and for readable fonts. Which one? This one. Malanga. This one? Okay, let's do it. So all I have to do is I say add to collection, and now I've got my collection. I only need one thing in my collection, and I say use. And it's only got one weight, but that's fine. And now I can do it a couple different ways, but in this case I'm going to use an import. So this directive, I can use this directive in my CSS, edit CSS window there. And it'll import the instructions to use this font. It's this easy. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back here to my edit CSS. I'm going to go up to the top and import this at the top, just the way Google gave it to me. And you can do all kinds of fancy things like add a whole bunch of fonts and different weights and things if you want, and Google will arrange all that for you really nicely. So I'm going to save. And I think it's going to be really, really easy to know where I want that font instruction to be, because I already have an obnoxious font instruction here. And I think I just need to change the obnoxious font instruction to what I want. So just copy and paste again. And paste this as the first thing here. So just so you know, when I say, it says font family A, B, C. What that means is, just in case you don't find this one, use this one instead. And if you really are in bad shape and you don't find any of them, just make it a sans serif font. So this is the thing that really matters most of the time, is the first thing that you give it. So I'm going to say save style sheet, refresh, hope it works the first time, which is also a programmer reality. Hope it works the first time. Especially when you're
I should
demonstrating
before
it in
testing.
front of people. Or it reduces
that-
the probability that it will work.
So the at import is the same as doing the link href, blah,
Yep.
blah.
It is, yeah.
That's a cool.
Nice. That's actually, I mean, if you were making a website about wizards or something like that, this would be a great one, right? So, I mean, but you can see the power of this. It's just wonderful. There was one that I had in the demo when I was making my outline that was like a typewriter one. Oh, yeah, there it is. It's called Special Elite. I thought this one looked really cool. It really did look nice. Like you could practically use this for like a business website.
Change the font.
Huh? Oh, you're right. Hey, you guys, you're catching on. Excellent. Okay. Okay. Some slowness happening somewhere in the internet today.
You gotta get yourself a good ISP.
Thank you, Peter, I was gonna say that.
Except we were able to buy tickets for WWDC here, and my friends at Facebook, who must be being policed internally, could not get out in time.
I wonder what's going on with
Speaking of
this.
good ISPs,
Oh, there we go.
Where the hell's
There.
the help desk?
Oh, we had a large unused space across the hall, and we sort of swapped it around.
I haven't had a tour in a while, I guess.
Okay.
So here we go. So this is pretty nice. Yeah, I mean, it actually, stop the tagger, stop the tagging, act now. This could actually work as a thing, you know. Yeah, so I really like that
That's
one.
really cool.
Yeah, and the thing is, this is totally valid. This will work. This should work in any modern browser, and you can trust pretty much that it's going to work in every browser.
What's the name of the font that's underneath the images?
I think that's Open Sans. Let me see here. By the way, if I want to see for sure, I don't even have to check the rule set. I can go into Computed, because Computed, I don't usually use Computed, but Computed is, what is it actually? Like, and for every single property here, and then I can search on it and say, font family, Open Sans. Yeah, it's Open Sans. Open Sans, it's just a great font. And
That's nice, I've never used that computing tool.
yeah.
Yeah, but now you get the problem that, you know, what if Google goes out of business tomorrow?
If Google goes out of business tomorrow, that
The
would be
world has ended.
the last.
That'll
yeah.
be the last of your worries.
Yeah.
Actually,
Yeah.
Peter, then it fails back to Arial. That's why you had 3 of those.
That's true, actually. Thank you. Yeah, that's the right answer. Yeah, thank you, Jamie. We'd have bigger problems. That was my first thought too. Yeah.
Yesterday, Google bought a wind power company that has tethered, instead of putting them on that big stanchion, they have these tethered, in other words, flying kite-like wings that, so the wind's coming, and then they're flying around here, and it's all done, you know, with computers, but they are basically going, and they're flying and generating electricity and sending it back to the tether.
Wow.
And a friend had told me about the company, and then yesterday I got an alert that Google had just acquired them. So they are everywhere, truly.
So I'm just going to do a couple more fun things here that show off some of the newer features of CSS 3 and just are neat. So this is called Ultimate CSS Gradient Generator. I'll put the link up for this too. So yeah, it looks like Photoshop. So I could choose any of these gradients, And it gives me a lot of complicated code, actually, but that's okay because I can just paste it in. So here, it gives me all the code for this. And now I can paste this in. And let's see. I think it just works. Let me see. So I want to say body. Okay, if I want to be more of a purist, I'll go up here with it and put it down here where I already have a... No, because it's not specifically for body, so never mind. I'll put it right here. Copy and paste. And remember about this, guys, that you don't have to necessarily know everything you're putting in because you can use copy and paste. And there's revisions if you screw it up, or you can just take it out if you screw it up, and that means you can learn, you know. So let's see how this looks, that gradient as the background. We have some...
That font actually works pretty well on that side.
I know, it's really neat actually, isn't it? It kind of looks like it's news or something. Okay, so there's that. Yeah. It's real pretty actually. There was one I had here I think that might have been a little more sort of jump out in your face. But I mean, you don't necessarily want things to jump out in your face. It might be much better to have it be a subtle gradient, but sometimes for effects it's nice. So, I mean, part of what you end up with by learning these sort of tricks and things,
Nice.
isn't that nice? Is you learn a lot of ways to spice up your site, you know, and you didn't have to wade through 100 themes on Theme Forest to find one that had gradients. You just know how to do that one trick, and you can do it yourself.
Did you notice how many different browsers the code was supporting?
Yes.
The different underscore WebKit.
Yeah,
etc.?
yeah. The reason it's doing that is because these aren't standardized yet, and so these are called vendor prefixes.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's why. But the neat thing is it works. It works in almost any browser. Let me see. There was one other fun thing. Oh yeah. Oh, I did a box shadow. That's right. I was playing with box shadow. So here's another CSS generator, and I wanted
Very
to,
cool.
yeah, and what I wanted to do is actually make a blurry background that was all the way around. So here's what I came up with after playing with it for a little bit. That is some serious business there, especially the IE9 stuff.
I'm also thinking that you could have just as easily referenced it instead of copied it, and then when you know, Badzilla 8 becomes the most popular browser in the world, they're going to cover it. As new versions come out, they'll likely change those to support those browsers.
I could have referenced it.
Did you have to copy it? I noticed, for example, when you were going for, some of the fonts and styles that you said, the CSS is Google whatever. Could you have referenced that code from where you copied it instead of copying it?
That was a CSS generator.
Yeah, I don't think I could have in that case.
Okay.
That could certainly be nice. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. I just thought I was just playing around with making a gray border around these boxes, and then the gray border, and then I put a rounded corners around it, which I really like rounded corners a lot of the time. It sort of softens things, and then okay, so that's what that looks like. And I played with that for a while to get that, just using my inspector tool and then putting what I got into the edit CSS. I thought that was really nice. And then I wanted it to kind of fade out as it went. And first I tried making it kind of try and fade out into like a pale gray, which might work if you messed with it long enough. But what I came up with as a really fun thing was this shadow here. Let me see. Incidentally, the shadow stuff, wherever that was, oh here, you can add more than one. You could add, like, if you say, oh, this kind of works, but I want to add 3 that expand out, and as they go farther out, they're more blurry and lighter. You can totally do that. So there's actually 3 different sets of instructions here to do that. But again, it's not that hard to actually do. There's a lot of code, but you're just copying and pasting in that case.
I see what you're saying, Jamie. All gazillion combinations don't exist.
Right. So I think that looks pretty
That's
cool,
great.
actually.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and so you can sort of add this bit of sophistication to things pretty fast. I mean, this gives it a personality that your theme vendor may never have thought of, and you don't need to worry about them anymore. You can do it yourself, and if it doesn't work, play more with it. It's really empowering. So I'll put up links to this. At this point, I'll see if there are any questions and if anyone wants me to work on their site. Yeah.
Theme vendors actually provide a CSS? And can you get yourself into trouble by customizing and when you go to upgrade?
Yeah, so the question is if you upgrade the CSS, if you upgrade the theme, they might change the CSS and then it might screw up your CSS that went on top of that. Yeah, that is possible. That is actually possible.
But you
Hopefully
can
they
add
wouldn't.
your own CSS file and include that last? And then
Well,
does that
I think
make
that your CSS file will be included last. In other words, it will take precedence, all things being equal. But like, let's say that there was an upgrade of hybrid from an old version to a new version, and they had changed like an ID to a class, or they'd changed the name of the class, which is not pretty, and you kind of shouldn't do that, but they did it, and I did have to go and change some CSS. But hopefully that doesn't happen very often.
But that is something you always have to keep in mind anyway. I mean, sometimes the great thing about cascading style sheets is that you can, if you know you're going to keep this website for a long time, you need to be aware of how these things are going to change, and that you're going to set it up in such a way that you can update it over time. If what you're going to do is plan, I'm going to have this website for about 2 years, and then we're going to make it new, then you don't have to worry about it. But there's a lot of work that goes into making it updatable at a proper, with the least amount of.
Yeah, it's right. It's pretty reasonable, in other words. But yeah, things do change sometimes, and nothing's perfect. But I wanted to show off one other thing, which is I made this plugin as a tool to try to help people who don't want to learn CSS yet, And so what this does is this actually, if you have this plugin installed, which I'm still kind of working on, but it's called Background Explorer. Something like that. It's something like Background Explorer. And what it does is it looks through whatever HTML it's looking at, and it finds all of the boxes that are likely to be defining something in the layout. And it has a couple of features here. It's a little primitive, but it could be useful. So there's this thing called highlight. So if I click Page Canvas Highlight, it just makes a little box around it. In a way, it's sort of like for people that are a little intimidated by that inspector at this point, and they can still do a bunch of neat little things. Page doesn't really show up because it's wrapping the entire site. Twitter bar shows up, but it's in this particular case, but it's down at the bottom. But it works pretty well. I've tested it on a bunch of different themes. So now you're using this thing to say, okay, where are the boxes? Okay, so now I can start to do some interesting things with this plugin. and you can see some magic that you can do really easily, okay? One of the things you can do is hide the background. So there, I just hid that big box that was wrapping everything. Now, I can see what it would look like to have a full screen background image behind it. That changed the feel of the site a bit, eh? You can actually use, there's a really great plugin that'll do this for you too called Background Manager, and it's a really neat plugin to change the feel of a site. Now, let's play with rounded corners. That's nice. And then now let's play with a little bit of opacity on the active area. And that's a pretty sophisticated, nice little look. And like, you know, in 3 lines, you've made it start to be a pretty interesting site. And I notice a lot of times with clients, they get really focused on what does this theme vendor's site look like. And I'm just thinking, hey, you know, in 26 lines, you might be able to change a basic good skeleton like page lines here into looking how you want it. So you don't necessarily need to worry so much about like this exact thing that the vendor is selling you. Currently the plugin will give you the CSS you need for that particular thing that you just clicked on. So I could copy this and paste it in and it would do that. It's also got default set, so it's like I've got an opacity of 85% here because I just want to see what it'll basically look like. When I actually paste it in, this little 0.85, I could change it to 0.75 and see what that looks like, or 0.95 and see what that looks like. Well, that's easy. You know, it's not like having to know all of CSS. Same with the hiding and the rounded corners. And then I think this guy down here, the Twitter bar thing, I think I just wanted it to disappear, and then the whole thing looks pretty nice. So, does anyone have a site that they want help with? An ugly site? Sure, let's take an ugly site.
www. Ready?
Here we go. NMRLAG. Okay.
This was a site that was thrown up really fast.
Oh yeah.
We need leather background.
I can think in 5 minutes. I can think of 5 minutes in 5 minutes of fun things you could do with this.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Okay, first of all, let's center it.
It was centered.
But it's not now.
I don't know why. On my computer it's centered.
Okay. So the first thing I'm looking for is I'm looking for the block that, okay, I'm trying to see the block that's wrapping everything. I think this is it. And now I'm going to go to the rules, and it has a width, so that means it can center, which is good. And now if I make it margin 0 auto, there it's centered.
Wow. That's a cool trick.
And I think it would be really nice to like put not that much, but 18, 20, 19. That's kind of a nice feel there. So already I like it more. The font thing, I think the font thing would make a huge difference here because that's such a plain font, right? So I don't know. Looking for fonts is a very powerful thing that can also take a long time. So we shouldn't take a long time on it. But I mean, even Open Sans would be a good one. There's another one called PT Sans, which is a really nice font too. And you could actually, I mean, that font, the Wizardly font that we had. Do you remember what the Wizardly font was called? Like, yeah. Let me see. MIL Milonga. Yeah. That could actually be really great for the New Mexico Leather Artisans Guild, right? So,
real quickly, I mean, you were saying that the website looked different in Internet Explorer. I mean, as a web designer, you're starting out in making sure that everything looks fine in Firefox and Chrome, and then going to Internet Explorer, right?
Yes. Browser testing is an important issue.
But also the number of users of Internet Explorer going way down. And
That's right.
who cares
The
about
number
that
of
anymore?
number of Internet Explorer use. That's true.
You have to care.
Yeah, but it's true. There are some factors that make it like much better than it was 5-6 years ago. Number of users of Internet Explorer going down, and as each version comes newer, it's getting better.
Yeah, but you know, one of the things I've been running into is that I still have a lot of people that use XP.
Oh,
We
yeah.
have
Right.
their software requires Internet Explorer.
yes, yes. That's good to know,
And we
IE8.
can't move from that, and I've already had vendor sites, co-vendor sites that won't support IE8 already. However, at the same time, so it's getting harder to do business in that, so.
There's actually a really great thing about Internet Explorer testing now that they made. Microsoft made modern.ie. This is really cool. They've actually done something really neat. First of all, they're giving you 3 free months of testing on Browser Stack for IE, which is, Browser Stack is great for testing. So yeah, you do need to test things in browsers a little bit, but hopefully the things I've shown you today are not going to be too painful.
But also the things that you've done should work across all browsers, and for the most part, Internet Explorer is just the exception sometimes, not all.
Yeah, and less of a bad thing. Like, you know, IE6 was horrible, IE7 wasn't too bad, yeah. So I can't do the font thing. Okay, thanks a lot. I can't do the font thing, I think, because I'd have to actually put in the link to it. I might be able to do it, but I'm not sure. But the font would be really good to change. Also, the readability is pretty low, just because the contrast between the text and the background is pretty low.
I had trouble finding colors
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
went together. I wanted a really
Oh.
dark background too.
So here's the thing you can go to. It's color.adobe.com. You can start playing with that. But just, you know, really, harmony of colors is really good, but also when it comes down to people reading stuff, yeah, make it real light. High contrast.
Images.google.com had a bunch of leather.
Oh, yeah. Okay, actually, let's try that. Okay. Yeah, let's see.
I'm seeing
Images.
hundreds of little leather swatches here, like with tile.
Nice.
Can you use those?
Depends, you know, a lot of times it is. Otherwise, what's the name of something?
Oh, Pixabay.
Pixabay.
Yeah, we could use Pixabay. Yeah, this would be a fun little thing. That'd be easy to do. Leather. Okay. Interesting.
At the top there
Yeah.
too.
Those were from Shutterstock. They want you to buy
Oh,
them.
that upselling is horrible.
Maybe cut
Yeah.
your tools in leather?
Tooled leather?
Oh, they don't know what that is. Leather tool.
Go back to
Texture would just give
images.google.com.
you a finish, you know.
Wildtextures.com.
It's gonna give you the way they canned it.
Fan pop.
See if that's it.
That would go with what's there. Oh, yeah. I wanted a background that wasn't too busy too.
So this may not be what you want, but for fun, let's play with it.
Grab some brown. Girl.
Don't know why that didn't do it. Let me see. Background. But, I mean, it does highlight something. When you're trying these things out, they might not all work the first time, too. Yeah, it's just a big file.
So maybe do the repeat.
That's creepy.
I have to agree with that.
It's like a snake skin.
It looks like it.
It is.
It's a little creepy.
There was another site I found here for colors. If you want to get colors and put them in the language of the web. Color. let's see, colorpicker.com. Not a beautiful site, but a functional
neat.
site. You know that site?
Lovely.
And then I have a color sampler here, which I sometimes use just for fun because it's easy to see what's really happening really quickly. So now I've got that color in the clipboard. I can paste it in here. Oops, except that it was in the wrong format. And then
You're ready to go transparent at a second there, aren't you?
I love it so much.
So cool.
I love it. I can even just type it in. What was it? C9A F82. So that's C9A F82. Okay, so
Oh, that's cool.
just kind of like more or less just lighten the same color a little bit. Inspector, main. So that's not quite the right color. I mean, in reality, you play around with things for a while. But actually, I like it a little more just because it's a little funny, but it's easier to read. You know, what I like is all of a sudden I can read the words better.
And black is not necessarily good, lightening up black a little few percent is way more readable than black.
Yeah, you may be right about that.
I mean,
But,
Yeah.
or is that false?
No, you reminded me of a question. Actually, back when we picked up one of those fonts, you said it only came in one weight.
Oh, yeah.
So if you had a bold tag in some of that text, would it just?
I think it should bold it. I think if you have a bold tag or an italic tag, if you have an italic or bold rule on a font, it'll computer generate the bold or the italic.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it should. Unless I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure about that. But the thing is that if you have a real italic font variant, it's going to show much more beautifully. And actually, Open Sans is really cool because Open Sans actually has like 5 different weights. So it has like a semi-bold and a book, and you can really get into like what's traditional like print typography almost with it, where you have the font weight. Normally, when you call font weight, you just say font weight normal or font weight bold. But with Open Sans, you could actually say like font weight 300, font weight 500, font weight 700. You could even have 3 different weights of Open Sans, which could be like, you're getting into like typography type stuff. It's really fun. Yeah. So is this a WordPress site actually? No, yeah. So we'd need to actually play with the file a little bit. It wouldn't be hard, we could just even, if it's not a WordPress site, I could just scrape the whole thing and download it and play with it, and it'd be easy. In an hour we could do wonders. Anyone else?
I have a site that I'm actually trying to get rid of stuff that WordPress puts on there by default,
Uh-huh.
like comments and all that stuff. So I mean, it's just
Ah!
page.
This is a great thing. Hiding things is really easy. Yeah, that's actually one of the best techniques is just make things go away. Like, it's not the most elegant thing, but that doesn't matter. It works really well. So what's your site?
It's lunchworks.leadingbusinesstrends.com.
Got a 404, so something, I don't know if that matters to you or not right now. Let me see. About us. Okay. So you want to get rid of what?
Yeah, like the leave reply.
Okay. There's actually, by the way, there's a plugin you can use called No Comments on Pages. I like that plugin. It's very clear, right? I think it should be a default. It's like no comments on pages, period.
Yeah, you could,
Yeah, but this is also a good example because you can also hide it here, and it's not the most elegant thing. Like, it would still actually have to take the time to load something that you're not showing, but who cares? It doesn't necessarily matter at all. Okay, so we've got this thing called respond. That's almost certainly the right thing. And then this also is not the most elegant thing in the world because I guess it has some impact on accessibility, and I'm not even sure why. But again, at a level of just practically trying to get something done, you can just say display none.
Boom.
Done. Yeah, boom, exactly.
Well, the other, but
Problem
at the same
solved.
time, in the code, if they download it and you look in the source, it's still there.
Right, it's still there.
Yeah.
Right, and you know, of course, you want to use that great plugin, because I love it too, because the form that it's going to.
Yeah, the more elegant, right, there's an analytical process where it's like, hey, is it easy to just make it go away? Yeah, use the plugin. But there's a lot of cases where it's not, you know, like, let's say a theme has this ugly thing that you don't like on every page, you know, or you don't even want to take the time to figure out where it is. You can also just say display none.
I create my websites in, I've done them in Photoshop and Illustrator and Dreamweaver and
Mhm.
basically all the Adobe suites. And can you work with those sites in WordPress?
Not exactly. Not exactly. When you say you're creating a website in Illustrator or Photoshop, what you really mean is that you're either mocking up a website that will become web code, or you're taking a photograph of the whole site that's not really web code and putting it up, but it's not really a website.
Well, I put links to different websites.
Yeah, so then that means maybe you're doing something like export to HTML or something.
Probably.
Yeah.
So,
But then can it be worked on in this? WordPress?
Not exactly. So there's a process by which you can easily or not so easily convert a static HTML website into a WordPress theme.
ding, 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 I'm interested in doing that.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah.
So how's that done?
Let's talk offline. Let's talk offline because it's a little off topic, but I'll talk to you about it.
That's right.
No, I'll give you the-
elements from
I'll give you the
from both
FTP right now,
Photoshop
let's
and
do it.
Illustrator, and I created it in Flash.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Yeah. Well, I could
to edit your own in
tell you how to
Flash,
do
in
it,
the
but
Flash language rather than in this.
well, I mean, the truth is that, you know, the vast majority of the things I've shown you, you could use in any format. You don't have to use them in WordPress. I just liked focusing on the WordPress way of doing
Yeah,
things.
I mean, that's what.
But yeah, no, oh, I see what you mean. You could use almost all of this applies to any CSS. It's not WordPress specific at all.
Okay.
Just my application of it is, my demonstration is. Yeah, no, you can totally do it.
But a more serious answer, Peter, I think unless the site is very large,
And it's
almost
not.
always the answer is cut and paste.
Well, I was thinking step one was gonna be go find an appropriate theme anyway.
But
Yeah.
not for the look.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Peter.
Okay.
So I create my own themes, that's the
No.
difference. I'm the one that
No, and there's
theme
nothing
and
about,
creates
you
the-
know, it's my website, and there's
the
nothing about
photographs.
it I like anyway, that I want to keep, so. I do have to leave.
Okay. Take care.
Somebody said something about turning off comments inside WordPress without the plugin.
Yeah, yeah.
You can do it on a page-by-page basis, or you can use the plugin to turn it off.
So why don't we wrap up the formal presentation and then we can have questions and things, and I'll turn off the recorder. Thanks. Thanks, guys.
Good.
Yeah. Awesome. All right.